Welcome back to the Whatnauts review show number 245, where each week we have a different story to talk about. It could be a comic, a movie, a TV show, anime, manga, all sorts of stuff. We read it, we watch it, we come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa,
That's
how
true.
is daylight savings time treating you?
Not well. Work has been very exhausting. It's raining
yeah.
here. It's so dreary to begin with. I can't also lose an hour of day. I can't have this be how my week starts tomorrow. It's Oscars tonight, so I'm not going to be able to go to bed early or on time. I'm going to be at a friend's Oscar party across town. Oscars won't end until 10:30. So no, this is bad timing for daylight savings. I'm not up for it this week. I want to take it back.
Melissa's in the midst of a crisis, daylight saving time crisis. I feel you on that. The clocks sprung forward late last night, early this morning, however you want to look at it. So yeah, we lost an hour of sleep. We're dog sitting this weekend.
Oh,
it's Rachel's grandmother's dog. Her grandmother's unfortunately in the hospital right now.
Oh no.
So she has been doing a lot better. But we were like, yeah, we'll take care of the dog. And cute little wiener dog looking thing, but fat, big round, but just looks like a tube of sausage. It's great.
Oh my God, that's the best
awesome.
Dog. I haven't even seen
good.
it. And I just know from description alone, #1 best. Give it the medal.
Yeah, he's fantastic, except he's in a new place, so he's not sure of everything. We have 2 cats, one that really does not like him and will smack him when he gets near. Just don't come near me. He was crying all night and was antsy and nervous and just where am I? So yeah, it's been hectic over here too. But speaking of hectic and crazy stuff, we are here to talk about some comics. Shazam and the 7 Magic Lands. That is what we picked for this week, because the week that this podcast comes out, the next day or two, the new Shazam movie is coming out, the sequel to the first one that came out a few years ago. Did that one have a subtitle, or was it just Shazam?
No,
but just
Shazam.
Shazam. Okay. Exclamation mark. Good stuff. Yeah. Shazam and the Fury of the Gods is the new movie that's coming out. So this was one of the things that I pitched for Melissa to pick, which you did. And yeah, just an opportune time for us to check out some Shazam comics.
You were reading me these comic names and you said Shazam and the 7 Magic. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then you said lands, and I'm like, lands? I'm here for lands. I came here for the lands, and I gotta say, this book did not disappoint on lands.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. We said that. I mentioned one of the bad guys, King Kid, and you were just like, I need to find out who King Kid is.
King Kid looks incredible. This book delivered on all promises.
Good stuff. So yeah, with that, what did you think of Shazam and the 7 Magic Lands?
I had a lot of fun. I didn't know anything about Shazam except for the 2019 movie. And this feels very similar to that. I don't know when it came out, how far the movie was in development at the time this was being written, because some of the characters look spot on just like the actors and other ones don't. So I don't know if they were midway through the casting and pre-production process, but if you like that movie, you can get more of the same here in the comic, and it's really inventive. It's sort of classically inventive. Kids fall through portal, go to a bunch of different lands, and it's we've got a fun Candyland carnival land. We've got a spooky land. We've got a video game land. We've got a land where all the animals talk. They're types of lands you are familiar with, but they're just done so well. The art design in every different place they go to, it's just delightful to look at. Every every page is packed with all these details. I wish I had more time to spend with this book. It is sometimes the downfall of the review show. It gets me to read things I never would have read on my own, but I have to read it on a timer. Like, I have to have everything done by Sunday morning. So sometimes I end up just flipping through a book perhaps more quickly than is warranted. But get this. Spend your time with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm looking at DC.com, the I guess I don't know if it's the hardcover, but the collected edition came out December of 2020.
Okay.
So, I checked the DC Comics app. I saw that issue 7 was out in like 2019 at some point. So, shortly after the movie, because I think the movie was 2018. Is that right?
I thought it was spring of 2019. I feel like we talked about
right
it
around
close
the same
to
time then.
Yeah, I think it was 2019 when we were talking about like Captain Marvel and Endgame and stuff. I think it was in that era.
Okay. Yeah, I am obviously familiar with the character of Shazam, or Captain Marvel, as his original name is. I can mention some of that stuff a little bit later on. But yeah, I really hadn't read much Shazam comics. The only stuff I had read was the backup stories to the Justice League comics, which they had. Backup stories used to be something they did all the time back in the day in comics. You'd have your like main story, and then there'd be like one, maybe two little smaller stories at the end. And that's something they got away with, but DC has been doing a lot recently, where they have their like regular 20 issue, like 20 page ish. It's usually like 24, and you have like an 8 to 10 like backup story. But there were some Shazam backups that Geoff Johns, who wrote this book, was writing back when DC Comics was doing their New 52 initiative. And I read those. I really enjoyed those. I thought that was fantastic. And I think that was also kind of right as marketing for that first movie was ramping up. And so it was like, hey, we also have these Shazam stories over here written by Geoff Johns. So I liked that. I don't know. I know that this is sort of a follow-up to that. I don't know how immediate. If I don't know if there was something in between that happened or not. But this feels kind of right around like it feels like a continuation of that, which is a good thing there. But yeah, I absolutely would recommend this to comics lovers, especially if they are younger age. I think this would read really well for young kids.
Absolutely.
There's some really imaginative stuff. A lot of fun, big, bright colors, bombastic stuff. And yeah, just things happen nonstop, right? And on one hand, I like it because of that. Like, it is imaginative and fun and just all sorts of neat stuff. On the other hand, I was just also kind of uninterested in what happened, me personally. But yeah, like I still think these work well for what they are, and I think what they're intended to be. And I think it's also a good like who's who of some like major Shazam characters and stuff, from Dr. Mind, who I had never heard of before, to Dr. Sivana and Black Adam, and the whole Shazam family.
Yeah. As the book goes on, it does get all of these subplots that take away from the kids explore magic lands. And I do wish that the whole book was kids explore magic lands and they didn't have to fight Black Adam. But I still had fun.
Yeah, there's a few things that I think can be considered disappointing. They say 7 magic lands. Did we even go into the 7th one?
I think one of them was like walled off. We've got
well, there's Earth. There was
Earth is one of them. Which also feels like a scam. You can't have 7 magic lands, and one of them's just like the Earth we already know.
Yeah.
So we've got
the King theme park. Yeah.
Yes.
There was the gaming land, which is supposed to be like Tron. There is the animal land, which is basically Zootopia. There is the Wozenderlands, which is a mix between Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. There was Monsterland, which is where
there's
that
a Monster
prison
Land
was, and Superboy Prime was held up. That was the one that was walled off. Which, Superboy Prime is in this book. If you know that, he's in there for like a handful of pages and then goes away. I feel like Geoff Johns was just trying to set something up with that for down the road, or some other comic that he was about to start making. It was weird, but I don't know.
And then the Darklands, which is the
Darklands.
goth one.
Yes. Okay. Yep. There you go. Those are the 7 magic lands. Yeah, we do get to see them all. We don't really explore much of them, which is a little disappointing. But in a 12-issue series, they don't have much time to do that anyways. As well as have some plot of Dr. Is it Sivana or Shavana? Like, do you pronounce that with an SH? I'm not sure.
Well, that's who it was in the movie. It's Dr. Sivana, and then the little mind worm is the post-credit sequence.
Oh. I think I completely blacked that out of my mind. I don't remember that at all in the Shazam movie. Interesting.
I just watched Shazam again for Christmas. It is a Christmas film.
Yeah.
So it's fairly fresh in my mind.
That's cool. But yeah, I had fun with the book, but it's also like, this is not the kind of comics that I would normally just pick up and read unless I was like trying to do some research or stuff like who is Shazam? Let me just read, some stuff of his. But yeah. Shazam and the 7 Magic Lands. We found this on Comixology Unlimited. If you are a subscriber to that, it's also on the DC Infinite Universe app. The naming convention for that is way too long. But yeah, that is their app where you can go read all of their backlog of comics and stuff like that. So, yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about Shazam and the 7 Magical Lands? I guess we should do a synopsis besides just naming the 7 magic lands here. Melissa is working on something. Her headphones may have gone out for now, so I will continue on with a synopsis for the book here. So let's see. She wrote me a note that says, plugged in my charger. Now I can't hear anything. Okay. Interesting. So I will continue on with the plot synopsis here. So yeah, this starts out.
I'm back.
She's back. Okay. Melissa, we're getting into plot synopsis stuff.
I plugged in my charger and then my headphones stopped working. I'm like, they're Bluetooth headphones. It's not like I knocked into anything. I don't know what that was.
She's hacked in. Did you have any other kind of final thoughts that you wanted to add on to that, or did you want to get onto the plot synopsis here?
No, let's talk about the plot, which is,
let's do it.
Kids go to the like magic subway station where the wizard lives, and then they realize, wait, we can't just go from Earth to here. Like, we can get to other places with this as like the main hub. So then they just go start exploring.
Yeah, they realize that they've been to this place, the Rock of Eternity is what they call it. And yeah, it's that like magical secret subway station that's right there. And they just start exploring and be like, we haven't really looked around like we should have. I think one of them mentions they've tried mapping it out, but they haven't gotten very far or something like that. And yeah, they kind of discover this big map that implies there are 7 magical lands out there. And so they decide to go exploring. And that's when they stumble upon, I don't remember the name of it, but it was the theme park one, the big like Disney park knockoff with a bunch of like little clowns running around. They're
little
like child-sized clowns.
They look like Mario. They're like the size and dimensions of Mario with little overalls and little hats, but they got clown paint on.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my thought exactly. I was like, is that Mario? Oh my God, what? But yeah, once they get there, that's when they first start running into trouble. King Kid is in charge of this magical theme park, and he wants the kids that come to this theme park to stay there forever and be happy and content and eat all the candy and junk food they want and ride all the rides and all that stuff and get away from the adults that have hurt them and abused them and all that stuff. And they are like, well, hey, we need to get back in about an hour. And at that, he's just like, no, you can't leave. Why would you want to go back to your family? And then so he tries to like grab them and contain them. And then, of course, that's when the kids say the magic word, which transforms them into these adult looking super heroes. And then he's like, what? We've been invaded by adults. And so he tries to capture them and enslave them. Turns out that's how the park works. All of the kids, once they turn 18, they get enslaved and they're like the people behind the curtain. That's not what I was going to say. Well, I was going to say there has to be some like Disney like Imagineer title that they could get.
They're down in
like
the
behind the
utilidors.
scenes. Right? Yeah. They're the ones making everything work under it all. And so King Kid is trying to kind of chase them through these magical lands as everyone gets scattered. And at the same time, Dr. Sivana is trying to take over the 7 magical lands as he is being mind controlled by Mr. Mind. So I will kind of leave it at that. I think that's most of like basic plot synopsis.
That's a place to start. Black Adam's in the mix. Yep. Billy's dad supposedly comes back and definitely isn't suspicious at all.
Right, yeah. Lots of crazy stuff. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say spoiler free for Shazam and the 7 Magic Lands. So I say we take a quick break for housekeeping, and then when we come back, we will dive into spoilers and start going a little more in depth with the book here. So yeah, we will be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon-exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout-out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, we are back. A big shout out once again to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Speaking of Patreon supporters at the $3 tier, you guys can get access to the Pilots Club, in which this month, Melissa and I got to chat about the pilot for CSI, the original. We went back to Gil Grissom out there in Las Vegas, and it was a blast. It was a good, fun time. Reminded me a lot of Mythbusters. So yeah. Go check it out. It was fun. And then Melissa, you have the one for next month. Do you want to give a tease for what this one next month will be in April?
Inspired by last week on the review show, we talked about the movie Michael Clayton. I wanted to find a TV show that was also just a man's name. So we were watching the pilot for Bob Patterson, a failed 2001 sitcom that only aired for a month, in which Jason Alexander plays Bob Patterson, the nation's third best-selling self-help author.
Wild. So yeah, we have some interesting stuff to talk about on the Pilots Club. And then here on the review show, like Melissa just mentioned, last week we talked about Michael Clayton, which is a legal drama thriller movie written by Tony Gilroy. Phenomenal movie. I loved it a lot. If you guys recently saw Star Wars Andor, he also wrote that. If you're familiar with the Bourne movies, he wrote a lot of those. So Michael Clayton is one to check out for sure. And then over on the Captain's Log, I've recently had my mind blown that Perry Mason is not real. Melissa, this past week, you and I came up with new categories for the Oscars, and I have to say, Keanu Reeves agrees with us. Did you see this going around?
Does he want a Best Stunt award?
Yeah, he's him, and I think the director of John Wick 4 are like, hey, we need to start getting more stunt work appreciated in the Oscars.
If ever there was a series to usher that in at the Oscars, it would be John Wick.
Man, John Wick, Mission Impossible, Fast and the Furious, all that stuff.
This year alone, you've got such a good lineup of nominees.
Yeah, really, really do. So yeah, we got to chat about that, and that was a lot of fun. And then last but not least, over on the Reactor Core today, later today of the day that we are recording this, is the finale of The Last of Us. Season 1. So we will be recording our reactions to that shortly thereafter. And it's I have to say it's been an interesting adaptation of this so far. I like it a lot. There's things that aren't connecting for me just because of the nature of it being a television show. But I am excited for the finale. The finale of this show, I think, will inspire a lot of conversation. It might be a little bit polarizing and divisive, so we'll see. I'm stoked.
We can't handle the season finale to this and the Oscars on the same night. A thing that is always polarizing and divisive as people fight in different
out of the way
camps.
Of the Super Bowl. They're like, you know what? We're moving The Last of Us up to Friday night so that you all can watch the Super Bowl. But for the Oscars, they were just like, I mean, you guys can start watching the Oscars and then take a break to watch The Last of Us and then probably go back to the Oscars after that to finally see who won Best Picture. And they were like, yep, we're not moving.
It's their season finale, though. You do only get one of those, and Oscars comes around every year. I can't be mad at them for a season finale like that.
Yeah, and it's been getting rave ratings. That's not something you really say for ratings. Like they've been getting a high rating. Like a lot of people are watching it. It's been breaking all sorts of records for HBO and stuff like that. So we will have our reaction up to that in the near future. And also, if you want more Pedro Pascal after that, we will be starting up our reactions to The Mandalorian here in the near future. We've been letting those stack up so we can do it in a little bit of a larger chunk. So there you go. That is housekeeping for right now. So Melissa, let's get into spoilers. All right. Shazam and the 7 Magic Lands. Melissa,
let's talk about these lands.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
I just love going to different little worlds. It's always fun. And these ones are real classic examples of different little worlds, but they're so well done. Like you've got this theme park carnival, like Candyland, sort of kidland that you start with, which is a beautiful execution of that. It's crammed with rides. Like the place is like 100 roller coasters and 70 confectionaries and 60 merry-go-rounds.
Oh, yeah.
It's full of stuff. You've got all the little kids from like all of the 20th century roaming around. You've got more contemporary kids and then like little newsies looking ones. They're carrying stuffed animals. They have like the big lollipops the size of their heads. You have the little Mario clowns, which are very fun. And King Kid, when you mentioned last week, this is one of the antagonists of the book. I told you I was picturing King Bob from Recess, the 6th grader who sat on top of the jungle gym. He doesn't not have King Bob vibes. I like him. I like his electric blue hair that's like always over one eye, and he's got the striped leggings, so he feels very like neon emo. He's very Hot Topic, still
Which
fitting within the
really,
Carnival Candyland aesthetic.
It fits within that aesthetic, but it does not fit for what his story is. He is one of the like oldest, because he's the one that started it all, right? He's the one that made it and did that. He's like from, I don't know what the time period looked like. I don't think it said exactly, but it looked old enough to like potentially even be like 1600s. Like very vague about what the time period is. But man, because he was eating porridge. Is what his thing. The reason he's there, the reason King Kid is evil is because he spilled his porridge, and his parents were abusive, especially his father. And he decided to run away from home because he knew that he spilled the porridge and his dad would beat him. And so he was just like, screw this, I'm out of here. And he leaves and he ends up in this magical like space that is just this like empty kind of open field valley kind of thing. And he finds this wishing stick is what he calls it. Which there's this one scene later on down the road where he loses that stick and just goes, my wishing stick. No! Which I thought was hilarious, but still, he finds this stick that will grant him anything he wants. And so he's just like, hey, I want to meet other kids like me. Like, send me all of the like kids who are unhappy and abused by their parents and bullied and traumatized, all that stuff. Send them to me so we can just kind of either commiserate or cope or who knows what. So I can help them out, right? And then he's like, let's start having some fun. Let's start eating chocolate. Let's start going on these like theme park rides and stuff like that. And so, he ends up building out this big giant theme park. But the electric blue emo hair does not fit with his story at all, which is so funny.
I think he looks very cool. You've got a point. If he's worried about porridge, who knows how old this boy is? I don't remember. I don't know when people ate porridge. Like, I don't know if like porridge is from like the 1910s, 1930s. It feels
porridge.
It feels like right. I guess it still exists, but it feels like if you're eating porridge, your hat and shoes have buckles on them. Like it feels truly old.
That or you're like out working the fields with those peasants in Monty Python, just being like, well, you're not my king, right? I didn't vote for him.
I feel like aesthetically he isn't exactly modern. He, like I said, he looks like what mishmash. I remember you could get in Hot Topic in like 2005. And I think that's funny that at one point he made an attempt to modernize himself, but he has not caught up with it. Right, yeah. Like he doesn't look like 2020. He looks like 2005 still.
The vibe I got was like magical elf trying to be edgy. Like he doesn't have elfy ears at all. But he has the like blue emo hair. I'm sure he has some piercings or something, but he has this like big king cape and crown that sits on his head on one side, right?
Yes.
I thought his whole thing was gonna be that, like once the wishing stick got away from him, like the magic for him would be taken away and he would no longer be a kid and he would like start rapidly aging or something like that. And then all the other kids would revolt against him and send him down there. I thought that was going to be the thing, but that's not what happened with him. But yeah, good old King Kid just looking like electric blue bubblegum, candy coated, whatever, Hot Topic.
So we've got the kid land, and Then we go to, I think the Wild Land is what they call the animal one. And this one's great. Like you said, it's basically Zootopia, although it doesn't feel like as modern of a city. It feels more like 1940s or something like that. But
they've just started society and enough to have like buildings and stuff like that, but they're still figuring it out.
Yeah. Everybody's wearing like little waistcoats. You've got like an elephant who's like a bobby with like a nightstick or something. You have a hippo wearing like a straw hat with a flower on it. It's real like mid 20th century old timey. Not as old as Porridge, but still pretty old. Like the animals they've chosen and illustrated look great. I know What If Animals Did a People Society is something like so familiar. You've seen everybody do it. But I like this one. I was very charmed by this one. Yeah. And I love our hero, Talkie Tawny, one of the best new characters. And I love that at the end of the book, he's just still in Philadelphia living with the family. He got out of the 7 magic lands and he just still lives with them. It's these 6 kids and their parents and one large tiger who talks and cooks for them.
Yeah, he's a mainstay of the like Captain Marvel Shazam family here.
Truly?
Yeah. No, he's like one like he of Shazam. He is one of the supporting characters.
I didn't know that.
I thought he's a talking tiger.
I thought Geoff Johns was just like, I think the family needs a tiger. I will write this now.
Not an original creation. No.
I love him. I think he's buff and he ends up nude a couple times.
Yeah, they do the like is Donald Duck naked from the waist down joke like that. That's what they do. He was just like, guys, I feel really naked right now.
Right. Because in this world, when like animals rebelled against humans, like the tigers didn't fight with them. So now that animals have ruled over this whole land, there's no humans left. If any humans are found and caught, they get thrown into the tiger pit. And so they take tiger citizens, like, we're calling you. This is your penance. This is what you owe for tiger kind. Take off your clothes, go into the pit, eat a kid. And Talkie Tawny's like, I don't want to do this. I want to be civilized. I want to wear a waistcoat and read books and like cook delicious vegetarian meals.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's buff and he's nude. And then later in the book, like, I think the magic gets affected and then he loses his clothes. And no, he like somebody turns him into a little tiger cub. So he shrinks out of his clothes and then he has to get his clothes back on. I'm like, this is very specific. You think about the people who like have the hots for Tony the Tiger and draw like Tony the Tiger porn. It reminded me of that, but not necessarily in a negative way. Like, I thought it was kind of cool that Talkie Tawny's like, he is legitimately fun for kids. And I feel like he was also serving something to a very specific sub audience of adults also.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then after that, we get the game world. I think Game Lands is what they call it. And yeah, it is basically like a knockoff of Tron. The characters in there is a class system where it's based off the amount of points you have. The points is also how you can buy better weapons and stuff like that to get you higher up and get you more points. And no one has beaten the Game Master. And that is the only way to get out of Game Lands, which they end up getting out a different way anyways. They don't really beat the Game Master, but yeah, it is kind of like this neon cyberpunk Tron city, which I enjoyed, but I also all of the like text that would pop up to say certain stuff. I was just like, I could do without that, or like have it be more like personal to that person who got them, right? It's on like a little heads up display and not this big giant text that like displays and blocks most of the city, right? It's just like, okay.
You've got your own hologram that follows you around and tells people how many points you're worth.
Sure.
Like the number of points you have determines like where you live in the city. And Eugene and Pedro wind up in this world. And Eugene is like, plays video games constantly. He's like, I was born to do this. This is perfect. Pedro can get us out of here today. So he spends a bunch of his points to get a car to like race against the game master. But then after he spent the points to buy the car, now he no longer has the amount of points to keep like living in the area of the city they're in. But Pedro does. So now Pedro has to be the one to drive the car. I like that little twist. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that one was interesting. We got the Wozenderlands.
These were cool. Because when you see it on the map, you don't, at least I didn't put it together. That's what it was. Right. Until you go there and you've got a little rabbit with a pocket watch and you've got a scarecrow.
Very important thing.
You're like, oh, Wonderland plus Oz. Like it is literally those things, not just to where it's aesthetically like Wonderland and Oz put together. All of the characters are there. Like Alice and Dorothy, they refer to multiple times. We never get to see them, but they are like heroes of that land. They still exist. It's like that land's superheroes. Instead of Superman and Batman, you go to Wozenderland, and yeah, Alice and Dorothy are just walking around saving people.
Exactly. Yeah, that one was neat. On the flip side, though, this is also kind of where one of my disappointments come in, because I don't feel like the land is wholly original or some new like concept or idea. Like I don't know. Like I don't necessarily need it to be a new concept or idea, but like it just felt like, oh, it's Oz. And not like, oh, this is supposed to be like it's not Oz, but it's like your own version of that. Like I think I would have preferred like my own version, not my own, right? But like it's like Geoff Johns' own version of that, rather than it's literally just these two things you already know combined.
The combination is novel to me. I feel like we have seen there's stories where like there's an episode of Tiny Toons or something where somebody gets hit on the head and dreams they're in like Alice in Wonderland or dreams they're in Wizard of Oz or something. You've seen this. You've seen it's a specific parody of that story, or it's a general fantasy land featuring stuff pulled from a lot of known fantasy stories, such as a Wizard of Oz or an Alice in Wonderland. But I'd never seen, no, it's just exactly those two. You're in a chocolate vanilla swirl world of specifically Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. Like, you're right in that it's almost so, it is more of a direct reference and less of a general genre pastiche. Right. But the fact that it's both of them smushed together is, like, I've never seen that exactly. I wasn't expecting that. It is a surprise. So even though it is something you know very, very well, like there's still a novelty to it that it's like, well, I never thought about what if the rabbit and the scarecrow were friends. We only see it for a couple pages, but it's neat. Yeah, exactly. Some of my recommendations at the end of this will be kind of in reference to this land here. But yeah, then after that, let's see, what else we get? We get the Dark Lands is what we mentioned, where everything is black and white. Yes, it's so black and white, universal horror, like old Tim Burton, like it's just goth Halloween decoration land. We're in it too briefly. I love that in order to get into the land, like you arise from your own grave. As soon as Shazam gets there, he has to fight his own skeleton. There's like the mansion from Psycho looming on the hill. Yep. Like I like that because it's not the like, oh, here's two properties you already know, but it's just like, okay, we're gonna make a horror themed land, and yeah, we'll have like it'll look like a Universal monster movie. It'll feel like have a reference to this thing. It'll have a reference to that thing, but it's still its own unique land there. So that's what I kind of liked about the other ones. But yeah, this one was cool. I liked that you could like it was almost kind of like the like Avatar state where the Avatar can like speak to his ancestors and stuff of who was all the avatars before them. It was kind of like that in that there were
like spirits and ghosts here, and it was past champions of the Shazam stuff. And I know some of them were being a little manipulative and stuff like that, but still, it was just like, oh, this is kind of neat that there is technically a place where you can go commune with them. And say that stuff. That's neat.
And then there's the Monster Lands, which I guess is like a walled off prison of like baddies who were too bad to keep existing in other lands. Like the Wicked Witch of the West is in there, the Red Queen is in there. And those are both character designs I've never seen for those classic literary characters. I like that the Wicked Witch of the West looks like old like 1930s Halloween decorations. Like there's like a cat on her hat, there's like spiders on her leggings. She's like all patterned in a really interesting way. And then the Red Queen's just like a tall, imposing lady in like a red jumpsuit. She looks like Grace Jones or something very different.
I'm not sure. I know that the Monster Society of Evil is like Shazam's main antagonist team. I'm not sure if the version we got in this is accurate to who they usually are, in which case might explain why we get something like the Wicked Witch of the West and we get this like Wozunder land here. But yeah, the Monster Society is to Captain Marvel as the Rogues are to Flash, or Batman basically Sinister just fights Six. All of the Arkham patients, or Spider-Man fights the Sinister Six. Shazam fights the Monster Society.
So the Monster Society, like I said, it's Wicked Witch of the West, it's Red Queen, it's like a big robot hologram guy from like the Game Lands. It's some Hamburglar looking guy called Merry-Go-Round from like the Kid Lands. My favorite one from the Wildlands from the Animal Society is a guy named Scapegoat, who's just like a gangster goat with a handgun in each hand. Which was so funny to me that he isn't like this massive, towering, imposing monster. Like he doesn't have magic. He doesn't shoot a ray gun. He just has a regular gun, but two of them, one in each hand, which isn't necessarily more graceful or offensive in any way. Just a goat with two guns is very funny as one of the members of this giant imposing rogues gallery. And I think he is the first to go down. Poor Scapegoat. Yeah.
Okay, so I am looking at the Wikipedia page for the Monster Society of Evil. The original membership was led by Mr. Mind. There's a character named Dummy, who is a living ventriloquist. We got to see him.
Yes.
In there. Yep, he's one of the original members. There's a character named Mr. Who. He's not a doctor yet, apparently, but he is a crippled criminal mastermind with one eye who created Solution Z, which grants him the abilities of shape-shifting, size-shifting, invisibility, limb regeneration, phasing, and an amphibious nature. He's an early adversary of Dr. Fate. Interesting. We also get a character named Neola, a weather-controlling Aztec priestess who previously fought Hawkman. We also get the Mighty, which is a super strong animated large statue with magical powers who was an early adversary of Spectre. And then
who's Spectre?
He's another DC Comics character, dark magic side of things.
Okay.
Yeah, don't need to know him right now. And last but not least, we get a character named Romulus, a green-skinned super villain with the ability to control plants, who was an early opponent of Sandman and Sandy the Golden Boy. This is not Neil Gaiman's version of Sandman, to be specific,
the
though.
Golden Boy.
I've never heard of him. I guess he's the current Sandman.
The most exciting comic on the rack. No, I don't want Batman. I want Sandy the Golden Boy.
Right. But
That's
there's
what you
multiple
call your dog.
versions. Yeah. There's multiple versions. The one I think we got was the 5th version, which has the Wicked Witch of the West, Red Queen, Scapegoat, Mr. Merry-Go-Round, a whole bunch of different stuff. So there you go.
Do you remember that statistic that they mentioned in one old episode of Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, that the one character who has appeared in the greatest individual number of Marvel Comics titles is Dracula because he's in the public domain and anyone can pull him out? Like, he's been in more titles than Wolverine has.
I feel like I've heard them say that, but yeah, it's been so long since I listened to Jay and Miles. Great show though.
Yeah, like I also listened to it for a while, and then I felt like I had reached my fill of things to know about the X-Men, but the things I did learn I treasure, and that's one of them. Now, this fact is probably 5 years old. I don't know if it's still true. Maybe now it is Wolverine, who's been in the greatest number of individual Marvel Comics titles. But I think about that all the time, that it's Dracula, that like somewhere back in the many decades of this universe, everybody's fought Dracula because nobody says you can't. And I like to see that, a similar take on that, where Shazam is fighting the Wicked Witch of the West.
Right, yeah.
I would love to see more of that, just more public domain characters entering the comic book canon. Like you fight, I don't the rabbit from Winnie the Pooh or something.
That's interesting, yeah. So yeah, that explains the Darklands. What else do we have? What are we missing here?
That's all of them. It's that one, the prison land that we're barely
Monster
in,
Land, yeah.
and then regular Earth, just Philadelphia, like in the movie. Like I loved every
what a
land.
Magical place.
Cheesesteaks, a statue, stairs you can climb, incredible.
Yeah.
A big bell with a crack in it. Who could imagine? Only in the most fantastical place. I loved all the lands, but as the story went on and more plots kept getting added, like Billy's dad and Mr. Mind and Black Adam and all of this, we're spending like smaller and smaller time amounts in the land. So you just get a good amount of time in Kid Land, and then some in Wildland and Gameland, and then it's just diminishing from there on out. Like, no, like the Darklands is one of the coolest ones. I need an entire issue here. I need the Shazam Family Halloween special entirely in the Darklands. I want to be here for more than 4 pages, please.
Actually, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I wish we did get to explore them more. Going into this book, I thought they were gonna explore a magical like one each issue, which then like that's only 7 issues, and we still have a handful to like fill out the plot.
Yeah,
right. Like I thought that's. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. I thought that's what we were gonna be doing, but it really wasn't. And yeah, we spend a significant amount of time in that theme park and Philadelphia, the Rock of Eternity, like all that stuff, which I do have to say, I think exploring the Rock of Eternity is an interesting choice of like how to start this next adventure.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping we get something like that in this new movie. Like I was reading this and being like, is any of this book going to inform the sequel that we'll get? The answer is probably not very much. But I think there were a few things in there that could maybe hint at maybe a later Shazam story that came after this or something. But just the idea that like these magical powers that Billy Batson got, he's borrowing them from all these different gods, right? And if he doesn't really know the full extent of his powers or how to use them all exactly, maybe the gods that gave the wizard their bits of their power to be able to pass on, like maybe they're upset that he's misusing them or not using them in the way that he's supposed to, or something, or there might be this thing of like, hey, you've brought back there's now 6 total champions. What's taking you so long to get this 7th? And he's like
Yeah.
right, they're like, the gods in some way could be mad at him for something that he didn't necessarily foresee. Or yeah, it could be this evil Mr. Mind controlling Dr. Sivana and the gods to do something with that there. Who knows? I don't know, but yeah.
There's a lot going on in this book. I think it's 13 issues, because I know I was preparing for 12 and then I got to the end and I'm like, there's more? I'm not done yet?
No, it is actually 12. It's issues well, you might be right. It's issues 1 through 11. They skip issue 12, which may have been a crossover in something else and just not like it didn't have to deal with this story. But yes, then we get issues 13 and 14.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess technically it is 13 issues, but it's largely speaking issues 1 through 14. We just don't get that 12th issue. It's not collected in the like collection of this thing here.
Who did he go meet?
Comics.
Where was he?
I have no idea.
It's not like there's a big hole punched in the story where I can tell like, oh, Aquaman was here and then Aquaman left.
Right.
Like, I don't know what happened. I can't tell.
I'm wondering if there was some event book, some crossover that it was just like, yeah, issue 12 is a tie-in to some event that just completely rips him out of that story, and who knows what. Which is what comics does quite a bit.
Yeah. This book, we've got 7 lands. We've got the 6 kids and their parents and a wizard and a talking tiger and Billy's dad and Dr. Sivana and Mr. Mind and Black Adam and Superboy Prime and a ventriloquist dummy and then a bunch of like different monsters. Like, it's so many characters. So much is going on by like the second half of this storyline. And on one hand,
before you continue with that, I do have information on what happened in that 12th Shazam story here. So first of all, it's written and drawn by a new creative team. And issue 12 says, revealing his devious plans, Mr. Mind attacks Billy Batson and the entire Shazam family. Pushed to the limit by a fierce battle against both Black Adam and the Monster Society, can Shazam turn the tide and save himself and his adopted family of friends and fellow heroes? However, the cover says, when strikes the Scarecrow, featuring Batman. So I don't know. Does Batman show up and he fights the Scarecrow, or does they have a fight with the Monster Society, which we don't really get to see him fight in this all that much. So I don't even know what's happening here.
So Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow, comes into town. He's also a part of this. So. There's a number of real monsters, and then also the whatever mind drug Scarecrow has.
Right? Yeah.
Batman's like, hey, sorry, Shazam. I'll take care of this. He's my guy. Get out of Philadelphia, Crane. Back to Arkham with you.
Oh, man. First panel says, let your blood run cold, mammals, for the reign of the crocodile men is nigh. And it has a picture of a big old crocodile dude there. I guess you can't see him on this here. Yeah.
No scapegoat, but he's also pretty cool.
Right.
Yes, there's just a lot going on here in the back end of the book. And on one hand, I liked seeing all these characters who, like, I've seen in the movies. I liked to see them on the page. Like, oh yeah, it is true. You know, here's Dr. Sivana. Here's that funny little worm. He is in the same universe as Black Adam. Here it is happening right in front of me. Whereas it's just been a thing like YouTube videos have had to explain to me that these things do happen in the same universe. I liked to see it. But I feel like this could have been like 3 separate arcs instead of it all being jammed into one, and then we could have gotten more time spent in like the fun lands. But also, you mentioned this being a good comic for a younger reader. this seems like a lot, but it seems like a lot less than a Crisis on Infinite Earths or something.
Oh, yes.
So this might be
yeah.
what you hand like a 10-year-old to get them ready. Like, if you can handle this one very busy Shazam story, you can work your way up to the entire franchise in one giant, like, multi-universe event book. This is your practice run for that.
Yeah, which is wild to think about, that Superboy Prime is in
Explain
this
him to
book
me.
here. So let me look him up. Essentially, he's an evil version of Superboy. Obviously, you could tell.
Okay, now hold
but
on. Even this is too fast. Is Superboy just younger Clark Kent? Is this like his son who is Superboy?
Yeah. Let me see. Superboy Prime. Let me get a Wikipedia summary to better explain, because he's one of the like more complicated characters in DC Comics. This is Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, known as Superboy Prime or simply Prime. Blah blah blah, is a superhero turned supervillain and alternate version of Superman. The character first appeared in DC Comics Presents in number 87 in 1985. He was based upon the original Superboy character by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, yes, who is just a younger version of Superman. It says Superboy Prime is from a parallel Earth called Earth Prime, devoid of any superheroes or even superhumans. There, Superman and the other comic superheroes were fictional characters, as they are in real life. The idea is it's our world. It's you and me, Melissa. Right. We can go to DC Comics headquarters where they're making the comics, all that stuff. They got their little minions, all the kids that turned 18. They're the ones making all of these comics, right?
Superman, a fictional character, not like Perry Mason, the absolutely real guy. We made up Superman.
God, I thought he was a real character, for a real person for so long. But let's see, fictional characters as they are in real life. The Earth Prime universe was erased during Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Superboy Prime ended up in a paradise dimension where during that time he found himself unable to let go of his former life and destiny as Earth's greatest hero. Over time, his convictions and morals became twisted and warped, where he came to believe that Earth Prime was the only proper Earth, and that Superboy Prime was the only one worthy of the Superboy mantle. Prime firmly believes that being Superman is his calling, despite the fact that he has become a psychotic, murderous, and even sadistic villain. His overwhelming strength, speed, blah, 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 makes him one of the most dangerous foes in the DC universe. I'll stop there. He's like, his reality gets erased, but he gets saved, even though he's put in this kind of like alternate dimension, but he still remembers everything. And so when he comes back, he's like, you guys erased my Earth, like all this stuff. He's mad, upset. Yeah, that's it. So all that stuff. He comes back, goes away in the 90s. I think this is him. He was like trying to be the cool Superboy. He had like a leather jacket. Did he also get a mullet? He didn't have a mullet, I don't think, but he was the like cool teen punk, right? Punk Superman. That's who he would. He had his like leather jacket with the metal studs and everything. He had
I think I've seen this.
The fade on the sides with it a little bit longer on top, and he was like super cool. But yeah, that's Superboy Prime. It's just strange that he shows up in this book. It's just like, wait, what? And they don't name him for like the first handful of pages you see. So if you don't know, you're going to be so lost. Like, who is this Superman related character he has the S like burned into his chest.
Yeah.
like it's so weird. But yeah, that mixed with Billy's father coming back and being like, man, I abandoned my boy, but I was in jail, so I didn't mean to. Can I like reconnect with him? It's just a lot for what's happening within these books here.
Yeah, the Billy's dad stuff. Again, it feels like this has enough potential to it. It could be its own entire storyline.
Right.
I do like that there is this search for, well, there's 6 of us. There's 7 chairs at the Rock of Eternity. We must have to get a 7th one. Who's our 7th champion going to be? So when Billy's dad arrives on the scene, he's like, maybe it's him. Like, he's my family. Like, he's my biological father. I want to have him in my life as much as I love my adopted family here. Dad can be a part of it too. I'll share some of my powers with Dad. It'll be these 5, me, these 5 other kids, and my estranged father I've never met since I was like 2 years old.
Melissa, we haven't even mentioned that the wizard, Shazam himself, is in this book. We thought he's dead. And I think he just goes by the name Shazam too, but he is like the wizard.
They keep calling the wizard, and I know that's Jaimon Hansu from the movies.
Yes. We thought he was dead, as he is, I think, also dead in the movie. Is that right?
I don't know if he's dead or if he just like sort of vanishes. He just goes away.
So
I don't know.
That's what happens in the comics too. They like just assume he's dead. Like, you evaporated into nothing. We just thought you were dead. And he was like, no, I was waiting and watching for the right time to help you. And he's the one that is like, no, your father cannot be the 7th. I mean, he can be one of them, but if you choose him, you don't choose your adopted family.
Yeah.
Here. But he's also the one that instructed Billy that, like, hey, family is who you choose it to be.
Yeah.
And so the conflict, or one of the like hero conflicts in this book, I'd put that in air quotes, is that instead of a crisis of conscience, Billy is having a crisis of family. And like, who is his family? And some of the Shazam family are losing their powers, or it gets transferred back and forth between like Mary Marvel or his like biological father. And essentially the wizard is like, hey, you need to pick one. To which Shazam is like, no, I pick both.
Yeah.
Which is go ahead.
I kind of like that Shazam's like, wait a minute, if you gave me all this magic, if you gave me all this power, aren't I powerful enough to change what the rules are? I choose them all. I can make it happen. I manifest this.
See,
I'm Shazam.
I like that idea, but I think it also undercuts itself with its own other idea, that it, like, the wizard, when he gave Billy the powers, specifically was like, you can share this with your family, and that is actually your true power, family.
Yes.
And family is whomever you choose it to be.
Yeah.
And so the idea then that the wizard is like, no, you must choose between this family or that family. It's like, no, dude, you already said, like, what is happening here? Wizard, you're being suspicious. Like, what is going on here?
Wizard very sus.
You're contradicting yourself here. And to it, I was just like, I don't get this. Like, just go with the first thing he said. Like, I'm choosing to have my family be all of them. That makes sense. Like, why are you fighting this? I don't understand. Like, it just seemed like the conflict shouldn't have been happening, but it was. I don't know.
Yeah,
like
I get that.
The powers kind of waning back and forth between biological father and the Shazam family suggest that there is some truth to, like, hey, you do need to pick one of them. But I guess at the end of the day, it's more like that's what Billy thought he needed to do, and so that's why the powers were waning. I mean, it's magic. right? Like who knows exactly how magic works except for belief, right? If he truly believes that he needs to make a choice between one of the two, I guess sure that might work. Yeah, some of the powers are draining from one and going into the other. But also, yeah, just like, but wait, if you gave me all these powers and I'm so powerful, why can't I just change the rules? Like, why can't I just be like, you know what? Screw that book that had all the old spells. I'm making my new spells. Here we go. Spell number 1. Family is whomever I choose. Bam, there you go. Which is neat. I liked it. I think that's a neat concept.
And Billy's dad is suspicious from the moment he appears. You know something's up
really
with this guy. Like, he's a sham. That worm is in his ear, literally. Like, Mr. Mind is controlling him. You're just waiting for, like, the shoe to drop. Like, yep, it's him. He bad guy. But when you learn about who the actual man was, this is something that's in the Shazam movie, too, where he's, like, looking for his mom, and he finds his mom, and his mom's like, yeah, I didn't mean to lose you at that carnival, but once I did, I realized you're probably better off and I'm probably better off, and we should just part ways there. Which is still heartbreaking. Like, that's one of the things I really appreciated about the movie is how sad it allowed that storyline to be. Like, I think it's an interesting choice that Billy doesn't have dead parents, and he doesn't necessarily have the same abusive parents that other kids have had, or parents who are, you know, like his dad like was a pickpocket, probably passed bad checks or something like that. Like, his dad is in jail, but his dad isn't like a criminal, you know? So like his dad's a serial killer or something. Why? I mean, like, his dad's really more of a petty criminal. He's not even on Joe Chill's level. I think it's a really interesting choice that his parents are just apathetic. They're just like, we're bad at this. We shouldn't be here. We're going to take off. Bye. Like, you'll probably be fine. And how, like, down to earth that feels. Like, it feels very true. Not that I don't want to say, like, other, like, dead parents or criminal parents or abusive parents aren't also true, but I do appreciate the specificity of that being the situation and how Billy has to deal with that. Like, it makes his parents feel like more human to him. I think it really gives the character a good lesson in empathy and like trying to learn to see things from his parents' side and understanding that they are struggling or they have struggled and maybe they didn't pick the best way out, or maybe they did because Billy has landed in this really wonderful, loving family now.
It's an interesting twist on the orphaned child that then becomes a super hero. And that is also kind of how they introduced the character too, is that he was an orphaned kid. So I don't know if that was with him from the beginning, that he's orphaned, but his parents are still actually alive. At least his father is. I don't remember what they said about his mother in this book. But I don't know if that was there from the start, or if that was something that developed later on. Like, well, what if they're not actually dead?
Yeah, it does seem like a more nuanced approach than I could imagine would have been there in like the 30s or 40s or whatever, or whenever the original Captain Marvel appeared on the page.
I really like the idea of Captain Marvel here. I think the idea of this young kid who can just say a magic word and then be transformed into the, like, it almost, he's a character that almost fits into a world that does have like superhero comics and stuff. It is a child believing that they can be the hero. And it's interesting. If you've ever seen the Young Justice cartoon, it's phenomenal. Highly recommend it. But that is maybe one of my favorite uses of Shazam, is that he is a member of the Justice League, but he's also kind of an outlier on that team. He never really feels like he fits in. And so the Young Justice team, when they get started and created, the Justice League is like, all right, we'll let you do your thing, but you need to have a chaperone. You need to have like a member of the Justice League to take care of you and keep an eye on you because you're kids, right?
Yeah.
And we would feel bad if you guys got hurt like that. Like you we know you don't want to be our responsibility, but still, like we need to protect you. And so at first it's Red Tornado that watches over them and stuff like that. And then eventually Shazam is there. And Shazam just wants to be a part of the team because he's a kid too. He's just like, oh, you guys are so cool. I love this. But he looks like an adult, so they don't want him around to be a part of the team. And it's so great. I love it. It's fantastic. But yeah, I think the concept as his character as a concept, I've always really, really enjoyed. Unfortunately, his comics have just always been marred by like legal trouble and stuff like this, which they actually alluded to in this book here at the start when he was like, yeah, well, I used to be called Captain and then like it stuck and like I've been having trouble saying my own name. He has a fascinating history, it just in the world of comics publishing in general. Because when he first appeared, he was in like back when comics titles used to be like Detective Comic. They still have that one, but back when it was like Detective Comics, Adventure Comics. Captain Marvel first appeared in, I think, Flash Comics and Whiz Comics, but they couldn't copyright those names because someone else had already been publishing titles under that name. So they did something else, or maybe it was Whiz Comics that he like was the actual book that happened first. Let me see here.
One of the
Flash
variant covers in the back
Comics.
of the book. He is reading a Whiz Comics.
Yeah, so Whiz was the one that like, okay, we actually found a name that works and stuff like that. So they got Whiz Comics, but couldn't publish it under Flash or Thrill Comics. And then DC Comics sued Fawcett Comics, saying that Captain Marvel was just a knockoff of Superman. And Fawcett Comics eventually lost that, and that's part of why they went bankrupt, to which then DC Comics bought them, I think in like the 60s or 70s, but it wasn't finalized until like 1991 that they had like full rights to that character, and they tried to bring him back every now and then in the DC universe. Never was super popular. But then, of course, once DC bought out Fawcett Comics and got all of their characters, which was basically the Shazam family, that's when Marvel was like, well, hey now, we have Captain Marvel. Our name is Marvel. You guys can't have Captain Marvel. And so then it was just like, again, legal stuff. Come on. And so, they started to call him Shazam, or they at least titled the book Shazam. And every once in a while, I think still tried to call him Captain Marvel. But Marvel was still like, hey guys, don't do that. So you can just call him Shazam. But I think more recently there is a comic that I think is being published now. It is a Shazam comic being written by Mark Waid and drawn by Dan Mora, who we saw on Once and Future. He did the artwork on that. They're starting, like the Shazam family is starting now to refer to him as just as Captain. He's okay. Captain of the team. Just fun fact with all of that stuff.
All right.
Legal history, wild history in comics, interesting stuff there. But he's always been compared to Superman and stuff like that. So I can see why there would be an inclusion like of some kind of Superman adjacent character in the book here, but it's still so weird. It's like, why is Superboy Prime here in Monsterland? What the hell? What's going on?
What percentage of people do you think know who Superboy Prime is? Like, do you think like, look at your phone right now. Can you call a single other person who knows the name Superboy Prime?
Man, I'm an introvert. I don't have very many friends. Melissa put me on the spot to call literally anyone, and I couldn't do that.
I'm just curious, like, when you say these things to me, it feels like you're picking... It feels like some sort of genius maneuver, like you solved that math equation from like that movie where Matt Damon cleans the floors and tells people about apples, Good Will Hunting, that one. Like, it feels like you've done some sort of genius maneuver, but I don't have the context to know, like, if I walk into a comic book shop and yell, okay, who's Superboy Prime? Like 10 people will turn around, or if just one person turns around and that person is you.
It kind of depends. I feel like for like avid DC Comics fans, they'll at least have some familiarity with the character, even if they struggle, like me, to like struggle to be like, all right, I know he's a complicated character, something to do with like he's a villain now, Crisis on Infinite Earths, he got Spare, and then the cool 90s look, right? That was him. I think for maybe a more general audience, they wouldn't really know, or maybe for more of a specific like Superman fan, they might know. But yeah, it's he is a more like in depth, in the weeds character. But yeah, one that is often involved with the crises or Superman, stuff like that. Just the whole like multiversal aspect of the DC universe. Does that answer your question? It just kind of depends.
Yeah, you always peel back so many layers on DC Comics to me, both within the narrative, like within the canon and outside of the canon. I'd never heard the word Superboy Prime. I vaguely knew that there was legal trouble with once Shazam was called Captain Marvel, and then Marvel arrived, like, don't do that anymore, and now he's Shazam. But
yeah,
like, I feel like every DC Comics episode we do turns into you just like lecturing me. Like, you feel like you should have a whiteboard, but you don't.
Oh my God, Melissa, the times that like DC Comics has put a whiteboard in their comics, that Flashpoint Beyond comic that I almost pitched for the review show that I mentioned to you on the Captain's Log. There is literally a panel where Batman is looking at a whiteboard of stuff that is basically explaining like the DC multiverse and how time works in the DC universe. It's ridiculous. They have that stuff all the time. I absolutely could be like, okay, Melissa, like, let's break down the divine continuum of DC Comics. Yes, the divine continuum.
I can't handle this. I feel like every DC Comics, like every book that's 12 issues or more, should have a couple pages at the end that are just blank for you to write notes in.
This is why I grew up a Marvel Comics fan. Spider-Man's still my number one. But as I've gotten older and started to explore DC Comics more, this is why I like DC Comics a lot, because there is just so many layers and the lore is so complex, and I just think there's enough of a rich history that I think Marvel tries to do in certain ways, and in certain ways excelled first at that stuff. The way Marvel Comics like introduced heroes with problems, right?
Yeah.
Spider-Man couldn't keep a job, couldn't keep a girlfriend. Iron Man's an alcoholic and has to deal with that stuff, right? Whereas the DC Comics heroes were like, they were the superheroes. They won all the time and they always got the bad guy. But even still, like just the lore behind all of the continuity and the way that they thought that solved it all, but then the problems that actually introduced, and they had to then go back and smooth that over and fix it, and all just the interesting stories that come out of that, I feel like are more complex, and I don't know, like that speaks to me. So that's why I'm just like,
Divine Continuum spells DC. I figured it out.
Melissa, step 1 achieved.
I'm slowly ascending.
Yes.
Do we have anything else to say about Shazam and the Magic Lands?
I don't think so. This was a roller coaster. Good fun.
Yeah.
Good fun. We've mentioned it a few times. If you know any kids that are interested in comics and are interested in the Shazam character, this would absolutely be one to hand their way. Be like, hey,
yeah,
you can take a look at.
Yeah, I did appreciate that this book, it didn't have any mature themes. Did have like some emotional nuance to it, like in Billy's relationship with his dad, and it's just narratively very complex. Like I feel like this is an appropriate, challenging book you can give to a young reader if they're ready for maybe not a very bloody, violent superhero fight, but just like a lot of characters.
Yeah,
like it's challenging on that level. It's canonically challenging for a young reader, and I'm happy the comic can deliver that.
Right? There's always something new. So there we go. Cool. Let's look at bingo for the week. We got our review show bingo. I am pulling it up on screen. All right, Melissa, what do we got here? I have Ancient Evil. I'm willing to put that with just like the whole like monster land being locked away. That's just, it's just like Ancient Evil locked up. All that stuff.
What do I have?
Villain with a pet. Would you consider Dr. Sivana a pet?
a pet to Mr. Mind.
To Mr. Mind, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Go ahead.
We don't necessarily have a ghost. We've got more of like skeletons. Like Shazam goes and sees a skeleton of a previous Shazam in the Darklands. So I don't have a spot for skeleton. Maybe I'll have to have one next year.
How do we feel about Mom in an apron? We got Mr. Tatani in an apron here. He's not exactly a mom, but
he's a new member of the family. The fact that you told me, oh yeah, he's always hanging around that house in DC Comics continuity.
I feel
Victor
like this
and Rosa
one fits.
and a big tiger.
I feel like it fits the spirit of the like mom in an apron here.
I've got cool step parent, but I meant that pretty literally. And considering that they've this family's got these two wonderful adoptive parents, and there isn't like they can meant literally a step parent.
Yeah.
I meant like your mom or dad's like new spouse who's trying to impress you. So shout out to Victor and Rosa, truly lovely people, but they don't meet. I don't think I've got anything that really meets any of these squares. I've got a square for Butler, but we don't have any cameo appearances by Alfred Pennyworth, unfortunately.
Right, yeah. Did we have anyone that was literally hiding in a closet? No.
I don't think so.
What about a contemporary reference to retro tech?
No. Because it's not like Eugene's out there still playing away on an old Atari. I did like when he mentions that he turned into his Shazam form and then put on like one of Victor's coats and went to the store and bought Grand Theft Auto. Like, I love that the kids could do very adult things, but they do like the most minor adult thing. Like, they're just like, I'm going to buy a rated T video game.
Rated M. Excuse me,
Oh,
Melissa.
M. Okay.
Grand Theft Auto. You can hire some hookers and murder them and do all sorts of stuff.
He just wants to drive the car. He's never
Yeah.
seen a hooker. Why would he?
He doesn't even know what that is. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I have. I have Ancient Evil and Mom in an Apron.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
You didn't have much.
No, like nothing exactly fit this storyline.
I feel like this was a good week for me. This is how I start to get some bingos in
You'll
the future.
catch up. Yes.
Right? I'm feeling good about that one. Here you go.
Awesome.
Okay, that's our bingo update for this week. So, Melissa, let's get to recommendations.
Yes.
If people liked Shazam and the Seven Magic Lands, what else might they like?
Looking at stuff we've covered in the past here on Review Show, just a couple months ago, reread a series of comics by Kieran Gillen called Die, which is about these kids playing a Dungeons and Dragons type tabletop RPG back in the 90s. They get sucked into the game, and then they have to live as their RPG characters in this fantasy land and figure out how to escape. And the book is them like decades after that as extremely traumatized adults dealing with the fact that they've learned they have to go back.
Yeah.
But you go through these different fantasy pastiche areas, and the book draws a lot from like real fantasy literary history. Like there's a world, you don't just have like a Middle Earth type area. It draws from Middle Earth and from J.R.R. Tolkien's experiences in World War I. So you're seeing like hobbits in trench warfare.
Oh yeah.
It's got a lot of levels to it. If you just like a book where characters go to different lands, Die's got that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you enjoyed Gameland, if you want more Tron aesthetics, there is the cartoon Tron Uprising, which aired on Disney XD in like 2012. We watched Tron Uprising a couple years ago. It only aired one season, but I remember being very strong.
It was on episode 122. Is what we watched that one on. We watched it for the review show here. So if you go and watch it yourself, you can hear us talk about it.
Past review show content. You know, we don't do it on purpose, but we have gotten to the point where we've been doing this for 5 years. So we've got a lot of our own past things to reference.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd also just like to recommend Disney World vlogs. Like, what's a better way to look at a bunch of different lands than Disney World? They just put in the new Tron Light Cycle Run coaster at Tomorrowland. So you've got your Tron area. You go over to Animal Kingdom. That's your animal land. You've got your Main Street USA. You've got Adventureland. You can see so many different things there. You can see a spooky witch. You can see animal people. You can eat a big lollipop. All of it can happen at Disney World.
Yeah.
Go if you can't physically go there, just look it up on YouTube. It's very fun. That's what I put on to relax. It's just people walking around Epcot or whatever.
Yeah, my parents just went to Florida and I believe went to some of the Marvel stuff. I think they went on the new Guardians of the Galaxy thing because my mom was like, best roller coaster everywhere. And then she sent me a picture of the like Nova Corps like ship thing. And then they had all like huge Lego sets of different like Marvel lands. They had like Wakanda all built out of like Legos and stuff like that, which is neat. Yeah. First thing I want to recommend, little over a decade ago, Marvel put out these comic book retellings of the Oz books. They are written by Eric Shanauer with art by Scotty Young. I looked at these books just for the art. Scotty Young's art is fantastic. He has such a cool style. And yeah, they have the Marvelous Land of Oz. They have Ozma of Oz. Yeah, they have the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The Emerald City of Oz, Road to Oz. They have like just all of these comic book adaptions, and I read a few of them, and they're fantastic. They're so good.
Cool.
I liked them a lot. I would highly recommend those. And then in that vein, there was this web comic that let me see if I can find it on our website or something like that. There was this web comic that like mixed and mashed all of these fairy tales together into like one land.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I don't remember what it was called, so I might need a second to look it up. But it was really neat. So if you liked that idea of like mixing and mashing like Wonderland and Oz together, like this is perfect for that stuff. And then I also would like to recommend Ben 10, which we also covered way back on the podcast a long time ago. I think episode 84 is what that was on. But yeah, that one is great, especially for like a young kid then transforming into he's transforming into different aliens, so not really transforming into adult superhero, but each of these aliens have different powers and stuff that he can do. The web comic I was talking about is called Namesake, by Megan Levy Heaton and Isabel Melancone, I believe. Melancone, I believe they're French. But yeah, great book. I loved it a lot. I'd recommend those.
Nice. All right, are you ready,
Melissa? Yeah, it is your turn to do the pitches. Take it away.
Yes. Kyle, for next week, I have 3 TV shows based on real people. Just like Perry Mason.
Melissa's making fun of me now.
I think it's very funny, and I think it's very relatable that you could think Perry Mason was a real guy.
TV shows based on real people. Okay. Hit me.
Yes.
Hit me.
which we have done some of before. Last year, we watched The $1 Billion Code and we watched Landscapers.
Yeah.
And since those were about, there's a lot of TV shows based on true events that are crime, murder, businesses gone under, long trials, things like that. Because we've kind of already been in that space, I stayed away from the dropouts or the staircases or whatever of the TV shows based on true events.
Sure.
And I found 3 shows that are about the world of entertainment, movies, TV, theater. So we're going to be in that area for these. Pitch number 1. This one does involve some crime. This is a show called Quiz. This is a 3-episode British show. Quiz is a dramatization of the true story of how married couple Major Charles and Diana Ingram attempted an audacious heist on the quiz show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, known as the Coughing Scandal, and how they were caught. So this guy was a contestant on the British version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and his wife was in the audience. And him and his wife worked out this special cue where she would like cough a certain way, and that would indicate to him what answer he was supposed to pick. And he won the top prize. And then they figured out that they were cheating.
Interesting. Now, to be clear, this is a like dramatization of that, or is it like a docu-series? Okay, cool.
No, these are all dramatizations. None of these are docu-series.
Okay.
So this is a 3-episode British show. I get aired on British TV and maybe.
I just have to say, Quiz is like the most Melissa title for a show, right? Yeah, Quiz.
But wait, an exclamation mark at the end. I think this came in the US maybe through AMC, so you might have to get a trial of like the AMC app Plus, or something. Yeah. It doesn't seem like the easiest thing to get at, but it's only 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Show number 2. This is a 5-episode show. This is on Peacock. This is called Angeline. Angelyne. This is a limited series about the mysterious blonde bombshell who takes over Los Angeles billboards in the mid-1980s, planting the seed for famous for being famous influencer culture. Loosely inspired by the 2017 Hollywood Reporter article that revealed Angeline's secret past as a Polish-born daughter of Holocaust survivors, the story focuses on the fame and the elusive nature of truth itself. I have heard about Angeline. Like, she will come up on LA-based podcasts I listen to, just that she's this woman who bought billboards with her face on it and then bought like a pink Cadillac and drives around town in a pink Cadillac with a customized personal license plate. Like, it's me, Angeline. And everyone's like, yeah, I know Angeline. Who's Angeline? What does Angeline do?
Yeah.
So it's a story about this woman. This show comes highly recommended by a friend of the show, Jack, who I believe started watching it because it came highly recommended from Sam Esmail, creator of Mr. Robot. This is one of his favorite TV shows of recent years.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. And pitch number 3, taking us to the world of theater, it's Fosse Verdon. This is an 8-episode series. This is available on Hulu. Spanning 5 decades, Fosse Verdon explores the singular romantic and creative partnership between Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon. Bob is a visionary filmmaker and one of the theater's most influential choreographers and directors, and Gwen is the greatest Broadway dancer of all time. Only Bob can create the groundbreaking musicals that allow Gwen to showcase her greatness. Only Gwen can realize the unique vision in Bob's head. Together, they were changed the face of American entertainment at a perilous cost.
Interesting. Off the top of your head, do you know what like movies or whatnot they actually went on to make?
Yeah, Bob Fosse directed Cabaret. He directed the film version of that, and I believe he directed it on stage. And on stage, he also directed or choreographed Chicago. He directed Liza with a Z, the famous like Liza Minnelli TV performance special.
Okay.
He did the movie All That Jazz, which was based on his life. So this is a TV show based on his life, including the part of his life where he made a movie about his life. So we go a couple layers deep with Fosse Verdon.
Interesting.
So
all of these are good.
We can watch Quiz, 3 episodes, Angeline, 5 episodes, and Fosse Verdon, 8 episodes.
Perfect. Melissa, I was going to pick this for a different reason than what you mentioned. Angeline. I think it's watching a show on Peacock. We haven't really done yet. So yeah, why not? Let's go check out Angeline. That sounds interesting.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think both the recommendation from Jack, and since we were both big fans of Mr. Robot and Sam Esmail, why not? That sounds perfect.
Yeah, it is good timing. I was so happy when I remembered this counts. I could do Angeline. Yeah. It is a show I've been wanting to cover while I know we both have Peacock right now to watch through all the Fast and Furious movies.
Sure,
so and I don't think either of us are going to keep Peacock for that long. So let's catch Angeline while we can.
Good stuff. Well, yeah, that is what we will do for the next week. We will watch Angeline. And then the week after that, Melissa, you already alluded to it. We are going to be concluding our coverage on the Fast Saga movies, the Fast and the Furious. We have the final trilogy to watch, 7, 8, and 9. And then I think we're both going to watch Hobbs and Shaw, but we're not requiring people to watch it for the discussion.
Yes.
We might mention it once or twice, but we won't be discussing it within the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will be concluding our coverage of the Fast and the Furious here at the end of the month, which is pretty exciting. So be on the lookout for all of that stuff. But that's about it for now. So Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, show where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kid shows you feel like only you remember.
There you go. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts. So yeah, please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. Of course, if you are watching the YouTube version of this, go check out one of our other podcasts over there. That would help us out a ton. And yeah, this has been number 245 of the Whatnauts review show. Yeah, we're getting up there. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.